Yes. So ideally, we want to dive a little bit deeper into what we've just discussed, and talk about cybersecurity fundamentals, what ideally covers or makes up cybersecurity. Then what are some of the common threats that are there that we need to watch out for in case someone tries to trick us in terms of common cyber threats. Then understanding security principles, which is part of the fundamentals. That is the CIA triad. We have talked about it, but now we want to go a little bit deeper into what do they mean, how do they function. Then at least do a bit of different technologies and security controls, yeah, for cybersecurity and all. So we shall start by saying what is cybersecurity fundamentals, basically. Yeah. So these are just aspects that offer hybrid knowledge and gain access into what are some of the principles of data and technologies that frameworks that define cybersecurity. Yeah. Basically, it's just a framework that helps us understand how does data work, and how can we use our knowledge of how data works to ensure that we create a safe space for us to actually browse online, share content online, and the rest. Yeah. So it is basically an integral role of cybersecurity professionals in protecting the enterprise data and infrastructure. But as we are continuing with what we are learning, we're actually getting to realize that cybersecurity is not only a one-person job in an organization. Yeah, it needs all of us to have hands-on deck for us to actually get and gain a wholesome cybersecurity experience. So basically, understanding the fundamentals of cybersecurity, which is basically the CIA triad, will help us appreciate more the fact that we do not only need to rely on the cybersecurity professional or the cybersecurity enthusiast in the company to actually keep us secure, but we need to all have to play a role in an organization's security aspect. Yeah. So the fundamentals for any cybersecurity issue or personnel, or be it a practice that you want to do, should rely on these three aspects, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what are they? Yeah. So we actually call it a triad because it forms like a triangle. You cannot have a cyber safe environment without having confidentiality. Yeah. Or you cannot have it wholesome without having integrity. Yeah. Or availability at the end of it. So the CIA triad is basically what we need to look at. So we want to say, remember when we're talking about ICT, what basically information technology is, we actually say for information to actually be valuable to us, yeah, to anyone, then we need to ensure that it has the three aspects of timeliness, accuracy, and completeness. Yeah. So for that to actually happen, yeah, we need to have confidentiality, integrity, and availability, covering them. Yeah, so that we say this information is ideally cyber secure, and at the end of the day, we can maybe tell our stakeholders that even though you give us a job, or we're changing from this aspect to this aspect, then we actually gonna give you value for whatever you're giving us, yeah, at any point. So confidentiality is basically preventing disclosure of information from being accessed by unauthorized personnel. Yeah. So ensuring that information is intended for one person, and that person is the only one who can access that information, is what we actually term as confidentiality. Yeah. So a very good example I can give for this is, for instance, you're sending a message to your boss. Yeah. And you wouldn't want anyone to ideally see the information that you're sending to your boss. Yeah. And there is a mechanism in which only your boss can view that information. Yeah. And if anyone else tries to intercept and view that information, then you get an alert telling you the information is ideally has been looked at, for instance, by someone else. Then that is what we end up calling confidentiality. So the purpose of confidentiality is to keep personal information private, and to ensure that it is visible and only accessible to the individuals who own it, or who it is intended for, be it in the organization, or be it even in your personal lives. Yeah. The person whom you wanted to see is the only person who sees that information at the end of the day. That's what we actually call confidentiality. Integrity, on the other hand, is preventing any addition, subtraction, truncation of the information. So in this case, we are assuming that the information that we are sending is already the information that you're sending is already confidential. Yeah. So if it is confidential, that means no one can either add, subtract, remove anything while it is either in transit. That's one. Or if it is in storage. Yeah. So the principle of integrity ensures that data is accurate and reliable, and it's not modified incorrectly, whether accidentally or maliciously. Yeah. So here we are saying, for us to say that this information is ideally secure, yeah, it needs to be the same exact information that was sent from person A to person B without any alteration or anything as you continue. Yeah. So remember, this one relies on the aspects of what information is. Yeah. It needed to be accurate. Yeah. Then the third aspect is availability. And availability basically relies on the aspect of information that we were calling timeliness. Yeah. And in this case, we need to ensure that the information that ideally we are sending can be retrieved by the person who's supposed to retrieve that information as and when they need to receive it. Yeah. So it's just protecting the system's ability to ensure that data is fully available when needed by the authorized personnel. Remember, all of them end up borrowing from one another, so that information needs to be entirely confidential. Yeah, then it needs to have the integrity aspect, and all these two need to be done in a timely manner. So in a case where maybe you have a security protocol or a security process that, yes, it's doing the confidential aspect and the availability aspect, but each and every time someone wants to access it, then they cannot, they actually find it has issues, then that in and by itself becomes a security feature that you need to look into, which means your security is not providing for you a wholesome security experience in your organization. Yeah, and the same happens for either of the two. Yeah, if it is available, if your information is basically available and it's confidential, yeah, but it can be manipulated maybe in transit or while it's moving from one point to the other, then it does not certify the cybersecurity fundamentals of CIA triad. Then we want to look a bit at what are the common cybersecurity threats that we might face or we might have faced, and maybe we didn't know. And these ideally include aspects such as a Trojan horse. Yeah. So basically, a Trojan horse is a computer program that masquerades as a useful program that a user would wish to execute, but conceals harmful code. So background to why this threat is actually called a Trojan horse. So it picks the name from the Greek mythology back in the day when there was a fight between the Greek and Troy, from Greece and Troy. So Troy had higher walls, which in our case we actually pick the walls to be it antiviruses, be it any policies that we have put that maybe an attacker cannot ideally get past it. So the same way, the Greek could not ideally penetrate the walls of Troy, yeah, and they lost very many people, yeah. So they actually decided to create this enormous horse, yeah, that concealed their troops inside, yeah. Then they sent a few people with the ships that had remained. So when the Trojan troops actually came and they saw the horse there, they actually thought they had won and this was like a gift, and they could use it as a monument to actually show people that Troy is not to be trifled with, because they actually defeated the Greek. Yeah, so they ended up pushing it inside their gates. Yeah, so and that's how they were attacked, and that's how Troy fell. So that's the same thing that a Trojan horse in the cybersecurity aspect or in the cybersecurity field works. Yeah, so it is a program that once you look at it, it looks like something that you need and something that you can use. Yeah, then at the end of the day, you end up installing it, and you ideally end up installing it, and then the concealed harmful, be it code or malicious software now that was inside it is now released, yeah, into your machine, and that's ideally how you get hacked. So this one comes in from downloading ideally useful or applications that you would want to use, but you're downloading it from different places that are not safe and secure ideally. Yeah. Places like maybe torrents, places like Pirate Bay. Yeah. So you might get a useful program that you want. Yeah. But it might be a Trojan. So that's one of the examples of a Trojan horse. So the second one is a virus. Yeah. So a virus is just basically a malicious software or a malicious program that infects your computer files, usually executable, and it actually manipulates itself by inserting a copy of itself onto the file. Yeah. So these files are always executed when the file is loaded into memory, allowing the virus to affect other files. So with a virus is a type of a malicious software that propagates or moves from one point to the other by execution. Yeah. So for instance, someone gives you a flash disk that has a virus. Yeah. Once you plug in the flash disk, it embeds the virus in your files. Yeah. And they don't do anything as long as you don't click on those files. So once you click on the file, yeah, then you execute the virus. Yeah. So once you copy a file from your machine, maybe using a flash disk, and you give it to a friend, yeah, you're also copying the virus from your machine and you're giving it to them. If they do the same from their machine to the other machine, it actually goes, and that's how a virus is ideally propagated. So once you click on it, it executes itself, and now it's loaded into memory. So depending on what the person who was using it had defined the virus to do, then now it starts functioning. If it's maybe logging in the keystrokes, ideally what you're typing on your keyboard, then it starts doing that. If it was ideally to crash your machine, once you click on that file, it crashes your machine and all. Yeah. So one virus that is recent, I don't know if you guys have realized, for the past few days, there are some people who have noted that once you try and click on, let's say, a group in your WhatsApp, it crashes your WhatsApp and asks you to restart it again and something. So that can be a type of a virus. It expects you to click on it now for it to ideally start doing whatever it was supposed to do. Then we have a worm. So worm is just like it's just like a virus. The only difference between a worm and a virus is that a worm replicates itself even without human intervention. Yeah. So once a worm gets hold of your system, yeah, it by default starts moving by itself, yeah, even without you doing anything on it, yeah. So that's the only difference between it. It works the same as a virus, yeah. And a very good example on how you can detect a worm in your machine is it creates shortcuts of files, yeah. So you might open your machine and you get, it has a shortcut, yeah. Then you work and work and work. Then after a while you look and you find 2 applications now have shortcuts, yeah. Then after a while you get 3 applications or files have shortcuts. Then that is ideally an indication that your machine is infected with a worm, yeah. So there are different types of worms. So there are email worms that ideally move from email to email. There are instant messaging worms that move if you have instant messaging, be it in your in your phone, be it in your website or your services and all. Then there are crypto worms for what we do as cryptography. We're going to learn about that in a few. Then there are internet worms that actually just move from one machine to the other as long as you're connected to the internet. Then there is the file sharing worms. Yeah. So these are actually worms that move in files that are being shared. Yeah, from one point to the other. So if the file is ideally infected by a worm, if it passes by your machine, it infects your machine and moves with the file. Yeah. So the next machine is also infected, and that's how it ideally happens. Yeah. Yes. Then we have what we call phishing. Um, Phishing is the use of emails and websites designed that are websites that are designed to ideally look like those legitimate business or governmental agencies that are used to deceive internet users into disclosing personal information. So ideally, when it comes to phishing, there are three aspects to it. There is phishing, there is mishing or smishing, and there is vishing. Yeah. So phishing ideally is a case where you actually receive an email, yeah, that has a link that requests you to click on it for you to do something. Yeah. And most of the time we're gonna look at when we look at it in at length, hopefully tomorrow. Um, it's ideally they use scare tactics to force you into um, giving you information. Yeah. For instance, you actually hear if you love, for instance, Netflix, because Netflix is one of the examples we're gonna use. If you see something like your Netflix account is going to be closed, yeah. So if you're a person who likes Netflix and chill, for instance, you end up being triggered and you want to work on it as fast as possible, so that the account is not locked. Yeah. Then maybe you're not keen enough to look at the link that is there is not the legitimate Netflix link, and you end up clicking on it. It asks for your credentials. You insert there your bank account number. You insert there your password, yeah, or your PIN number, and the next day you actually see messages of your account being withdrawn of cash, and it's not you. So that is one way. So with mishing is the same way. People basically exploit people online, but in this case, they are now using SMSs. Yeah. Um, a very good example is where you get, I think nowadays I have seen, yesterday I was actually seeing one that is now modified. They're actually saying, hi, I am someone from someone, I have just sent you this amount of money. Then they're actually saying, oh, sorry, forget, it was not intended for you. But since you have received it, you can just delete it, and you can give me your number there or something, or your bank account details for you to get at least kitu ya macho, as they say. Yeah. Then if someone is not that keen, they'll actually click on it, and they end up being hacked or attacked using SMSs, which we call smishing. Then vishing is where we ideally get people being hacked or manipulated by the use of voice. Yeah. So you get a call and someone tells you maybe your account has been hacked and we want, they're from, for instance, Equity, and they're saying your account is ideally been hacked and we would want to help you recover your account. And we need you to do this and this and this. So maybe you're not keen and you're following, keenly on what they are telling you to do, and you end up giving out your information, and now that is ideally used to hack you. So when we go through these threats in length, we're gonna see videos of how these things are actually being done to people and how they're actually being hacked live. Yeah. So ideally, this is how phishing looks like. And in this case, we have the hacker. He sends a phishing email to the target. Yeah. So it's just an email that has a link maybe or a picture that they need the targets to click. The victim clicks on the phishing link and visits the fake website, for instance. Yeah. Then the fake website ideally requires them to insert their details or their credentials. And these credentials are ideally collected by the attacker, and the attacker now uses the victim to access their private information, and that's how they end up being hacked or attacked at the end of the day. Yeah. Then we have what we call denial of service. So denial of service tries to exploit the availability aspect of the CIA triad, or the fundamental aspects. Yeah. So a denial of service is basically an attack from a single source that denies the system access to legitimate users by overwhelming the target. Yeah. So in this case, the attacker sends a lot of requests to a machine, yeah, in such a point that the machine becomes overwhelmed. Be it now, the machine in this case can be your server, can be your laptop, whatever. So they just send in a lot of requests to such a point that the target machine becomes overwhelmed, and it cannot ideally serve the legitimate people who are supposed to be accessing this information from it. Yeah, so it ends up causing a loss of availability of the information. So try picture a case where maybe you're actually doing an e-commerce site, for instance, where you're selling goods. Yeah. Then someone attacks your machine, your website, and they send in a lot of requests, malicious requests, that the legitimate people who wants to buy from your website cannot ideally get access and buy from it. You end up losing a lot of information. Yeah. A very good example for the public sector will be the eCitizen platform that we all know. Yeah. So you can picture how many people use eCitizen and how it's fundamental and of importance to the government in terms of helping to demystify or disseminate different kinds of services to its people. Yeah, from immigration to job permits and everything that one might want. Yeah. Then someone ideally hacks into the system, the eCitizen system, and they maybe put on their own banner that says you have been hacked, and ideally no one can access that information. Yeah. So you can picture how many people will not get services, and how tricky it will be if there is no business continuity or there is no mitigation plan for that. Now, having to go back and do things manually will be tiresome for not only the people whom eCitizen serves, that is the public, but also the people who work in the different departments in the organization, in terms of now you have to deal with everyone coming in and we are ideally going back. So denial of service is such an attack, and that is how it basically affects organizations. Then we have what we call a distributed denial of service attack. So whereas we had a denial of service being an attack on on systems from one attacker or one user or one system, yeah. A denial of service in this case uses more than one system, what we call a zombie bot, yeah. So you have an attacker creates a bot, yeah, a botnet. A botnet is just a combination of different bots or different machines that can be used to target the different machines. Yeah. Then they actually send the exploits, yeah, to the different bots. Then these different bots are now what attack your central system or the target machine, be it your server, be it your phone, be it your phone, yeah, all at once. So it becomes more efficient to the attacker to actually use a distributed denial of service. Yeah, one, because if a security audit is done on your servers, yeah, and anything is found, it will lead the security guy who's looking into that issue to the bots and not the attacker. That's one. And two, it actually increases the volume of the attacks. Yeah. So we actually say one mitigation of a denial of service is just to increase the services or the RAM or the capacity of your system to actually run the services, so that even if a DOS comes in, yeah, it will take some space, yes, but there will still be some buffer space in your system to do business continuity as you mitigate on that. But when it comes to a distributed denial of service, it tends to increase even if you increase, and it becomes even detrimental to your organization and to your systems in general. Yeah. So that's ideally what a denial of service is all about. Then how do you detect, for instance, a virus attack? Yeah. So a virus attack ideally slows down your system. Yeah. So in a case where you're working, you're used to working and your system becomes slow, yeah, then that will be an indication of a virus attack ideally, yeah, because since it's basically embedding itself in files, it ends up increasing the size of the files, yeah, and the bigger the files, the slower it is to ideally load. So in a case where a virus attack has attacked your system and it has attacked nearly all files, it ends up increasing the capacity of these files to actually the size of the files, and reduces the capacity or the speed of which the files are actually being run by your system. And that can pose as a valid detection point for a virus attack. Then you actually have unexpected activity on your machine, or pop-up messages on either your machine, your phone, your laptop, whatever you're using. So depending on what the virus attack ideally does, yeah, there are some that will ensure that they open maybe control command prompts in your system. They actually pop up messages in your system so that they ideally prompt you to click on them. Yeah. So those are some of the detection aspects that you can use to see and to know and check that your systems are actually have virus attacks on them. Yeah. Then we have email server becoming overloaded and intermittent. So most of the time, since they actually take more space, yeah, because they have a physical presence, they end up taking more space, and you can find examples of your email server becoming overwhelmed. Yeah. So whereas you used to accept or maybe send a lot of emails in with a small capacity size or something, now it becomes overloaded each and every time. Maybe you're trying to send an email and all, and that is in case you have an email a virus attack that you have embedded on maybe an email or something. Yeah. Then we have data files. So data files can become corrupt and go missing. So in a case where, let's say you want to open a data file and you cannot read the information, yeah, or you had saved your data in a specific place and now you're checking them out and you cannot find them. They've actually ideally maybe been deleted, or they have been changed from where you had placed them to a different place without your knowledge. And that could be an indication of a virus attack. Then unexpected changes in the content of your file. Yeah. So a virus can ideally cause a change in your file. Yeah. Whereby it either deletes or it adds information to a file. And if you realize something like that, then that might actually be an example of a virus attack. Yeah. So that's just an introduction of common threats that we ideally get to see in our daily lives. Yeah, or these are some things that you should be on the lookout whenever you're using your machine online and everything. So tomorrow we will discuss in depth, yeah, what these attacks are and even more. We're going to talk about things such as social engineering, which is the most common attack for people in corporate organizations, ideally. Yeah. And it's also very effective for attackers because it leverages on human beings. And remember, we said securities, companies.
Nikarudi huko. Acha kwanza nijimute.
Sorry about that. And because I was saying that tomorrow we're going to talk about social engineering, and it's one of the most prominent types of attacks because it leverages on human beings. And remember, we said that human beings are ideally the weakest link in any security feature because they're easily accessible. They are susceptible to the emotions and change and everything. Yeah. So I think from there I want us to discuss a little bit about introduction to security controls. Yeah. So remember when we were starting on cybersecurity aspects and we understanding everything. Can you help me mute? I'm okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, so Remember when we started, we were actually saying for cybersecurity to be wholesome, yeah, for you to have a full cybersecurity aspect in your organization, yeah, you'll need to have procedures, products, and people. Yeah. So you'll use the products to ideally safeguard your systems, but you need people to actually control and use these products very well, be it software, be it hardware, everything. But for you to govern these people, you need to have what we call security controls. What are the do's and the don'ts in the organization that will help these people have a straight path to know this is ideally good for the company and this is not good for the company. Yeah. So security controls are part of the procedures that you will need in your organization to ensure that people actually follow the rules and regulations that will help you bulk up the security feature in your organization. Yeah. So a security control is any type of safeguard or measure or countermeasure used to avoid, detect, counteract, or minimize security risks to physical property information, security computers, or any other assets in the company. Yeah. So ideally, anything that you will use, any type of safeguard or measure. Yeah. So here we're going to talk about the different security controls from what we use to detect, to prevent, and to correct these different attacks that we have seen can be used to ideally compromise our systems and ultimately our data. So basically, the security controls categorized into three aspects. Yeah. So that is the detective measures. So detective measures are any measures that are put in place, yeah, to detect an incident before it affects the system. Yeah. So these are what we are actually calling the first line of defense. Yeah. And most of the time in this case, they do not deter they do not stop the attack from ideally happening, but they actually alert the user to an attack that might affect the system. Yeah. So that is what we call detective measures. So they include things like intrusion detection systems. Firewalls can actually be used there. We'll see examples like honeypots and all. Yeah. Then we have preventive measures. So these are actually measures that are put in place to deter. Now, in this case, they actually act as the defensive mechanisms. They absorb the attacks, yeah, before the attacks actually gain access to a system, so that they sabotage the system. So in this case, we are talking of things such as firewalls will also be included here. We are talking about themes, yeah. We're talking about XDRs. We're gonna see what all these are. So no worries. Yeah. Then the other aspects of the security control will be corrective controls. So corrective controls are any measures taken to return the system back to its secure state after being affected by an attack. Remember, we actually said cybersecurity helps when it comes to data backup and data recovery, NDR. Yeah. So the aspects that lead us to backup and data recovery are what now in this case we call the corrective measure, because we are saying, yes, we have already been attacked and there is our systems have been compromised in some way. Yeah. But how do we ensure that we revert our systems back to ideally where the systems were actually good and they were running as we had intended. And how do we ensure that this never occurs again? So it's just a corrective measure after now an attack has already occurred. So the three aspects also relate in a way, because the detective measures, they warn you before the attack actually happens. So after warning you, you have a preventive measure that absorbs the attack, or it deters the attack. Yeah. Then from there, if your preventive measure, your detective measure and your preventive measure did not help at one point and your systems were attacked, you now implement what we call the corrective measures to ensure that there is business continuity and your systems are reverted back to where they were before you actually got hacked or compromised as you are. Yeah. Then from there we have this. So this is just a breakdown of the control functions of the system, and we we're actually talking about the three types, which I was talking about: the preventive controls, detective controls, and corrective controls. Then we have physical preventive controls. So physical preventive controls, these are ideally the physical assets or protocols that will end up helping us as an organization protect our physical aspects, yeah, or our physical infrastructure. Yeah. So remember when we were saying security not only, or cybersecurity not only safeguards the digital aspects, yeah, but it also helps in safeguarding the physical assets of the company and improving the security in general. Yeah. So we have fences, yeah, we have gates, we have locks that will need to be put in place. Yeah, that will also relate to cybersecurity. Then we have the detective controls, the physical detective controls, such as CCTVs, surveillance cameras, that are ideally placed on the fences, the gates, yeah, to just see the different places in the corridors, maybe, just to see who accessed what room at what time. Did they carry anything, for instance? Then we have key cards, yeah, that will also help in that. Then the third aspect of it will be the corrective physical controls. So in this case, you're actually saying that maybe you were attacked and they destroyed the cameras, yeah, maybe by using LED lights that shut off the camera lenses, or the key cards were actually sabotaged and everything. Or maybe you're attacked and the key card components were actually manipulated, and you feel like from the detective controls, your key cards might be compromised. So you end up doing repairing the physical damage of maybe putting up the fences again, putting up the locks once more, putting up new CCTVs. So these are just corrective controls. Then you recall all physical key cards, and you give them new key cards to actually access and everything. So those become corrective physical controls. Then you have technical preventive controls. So these are just controls that actually use the technical aspects, be it software, be it to ensure that your systems are actually prevented. Yeah. So in this case, we are talking about firewalls. We're talking about IPSs or intrusion prevention systems. We're talking about multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication is basically the use of more than one component to access your information. Yeah. So for those of us who use mobile banking, you actually see that there are some points where you're requested, if you want to do a transaction, you're requested to put your PIN number. Then once you put your PIN number, you actually send another number, yeah, that you need to verify the transaction with, yeah, what is called an OTP, one-time password, yeah. Then once you put that, now you can either send money, the money you wanted, or you can receive the money you wanted. You can maybe check your balance and whatever. So that is what we call a multi-factor authentication, yeah. There are cases where you might need to use maybe a PIN number and your fingerprint, or a PIN number, then your signature is actually verified on the system, for instance. Yeah, so all these are preventive technical controls. You have antiviruses that we have in our machines that are ideally very important for us to actually note. If we would like to ensure that we are cyber safe in our organizations, yeah. Then we have technical detective controls. So technical detective controls ideally include things like intrusion detection systems. A very good intrusion detection system that is free. We shall talk about it while we continue. I'll also show you where you can get it for free and you can use it, because it's open source. Anyone can download it and use it as long as you know how to use it. Is an IDS, SNOT, ideally. So SNOT is an intrusion detection system. So it detects for you that something is being done in relation to the patterns with which you have requested it to ideally do. Yeah, so you'll have to create rules and policies for what your intrusion detection system should check for. And then using that, it ideally alerts you if that thing happens, yeah, before it even gets to the preventive controls, in this case, which are firewalls, intrusion detection systems, antiviruses, and all. Then we have what we call honeypots. So honeypots are replicas of your system, yeah, that are less secure than your system, that will deflect the attack to them and not to your system. So, for instance, you ideally have a website, for instance, yeah, and you might want to know what are some of the things that people want to attack in my website. So what you do is you create a website that looks exactly like yours, but it has less security features so that it can attract attackers. Yeah. So when they focus on this honeypot, yeah, they actually forget to attack your legitimate organization or your legitimate website, because one, it is more secure, it has more security features, and this other one has less security features. So we can basically try and manipulate this other one. Then it collects for you information, and you can use that information to know these people were doing this and this and this and this, and this is what they wanted to access. Then with that information, you increase the security features on your legitimate website, for instance. So that is basically a honeypot. It's basically a low-hanging fruit for attackers to try and manipulate. Then we have vulnerability or technical corrective features. So technical corrective features include things like vulnerability patching. So in this case, you actually realize that the Cisco router that maybe you bought has a vulnerability. Yeah. So they actually come up with an improved version of the maybe software that you're using in that Cisco router, and you upload it on the system and it becomes more secure. So that becomes a vulnerability patch. Yeah. Then at other points you can just reboot your system. Yeah. And in this, these are cases such as when maybe you have already been attacked by maybe a denial of service. Yeah. And now your systems are stuck and there is nothing you can do. You only need to reboot your system so that it kicks everyone out. Yeah. Then you come in again and you get access to your system. So that becomes a corrective measure. Yeah. Then you quarantine a virus. Yeah. So a very good example of quarantining a virus is what Windows Defender actually does. So if you're using Windows Defender and you have a system or a file in your in your system, yeah, that has the potential of being a virus, it actually curbs that and gives you a prompt of quarantining it, so that yes, you might have the virus and maybe you want to learn what was it doing, yeah, but it does not. It is put in a confined space so that it does not affect your system at all. Yeah, so that is what we call a corrective quarantining a virus control. Yeah. Then we have the third aspect, which is an administrative preventive control. And in this case, we're actually looking at aspects such as what are the policies for hiring and termination? Yeah. Are we doing a background check on the people we are bringing? What is their background like? Yeah. From their previous job, what does the manager actually, or the people they're working with, say about him? Yeah. Then in the termination policy, what is the termination policy? Do we terminate their all their credentials from our systems? Do we keep them? And if we keep them, where do we keep them and why do we keep them? Yeah. So these are policies that go hand in hand with why are we hiring someone and how and why are we terminating someone? Yeah. So basically, removing their user account from the system, deleting their let's say work email. Yeah. Are some of the policies that are there. Then we have separation of duties. So, and in this case, we're actually saying no one person should have full visibility of everything. Yeah. So, yes, we might have the CEO who wants to see everything, but in this case, they only have read permissions. They can only read what the different departmental heads, for instance, are actually uploading. But the CEO himself cannot, or herself cannot ideally change any data. Yeah. Then we have different departments. So the separation of duties actually means someone from IT cannot do any duty or change any information that is meant to be done by someone from finance. Yeah. In IT, someone who is dealing with desktops and maybe helping out with the issues in to do with maybe desktops and everything should not have the systems admin's password, ideally. Yeah. So separation of duties helps ensure that in case maybe there is an attack, yeah, the attack is minimal in such a way that only the duty that was attacked is what is compromised at the end of the day. Then we have data classification. So which data is accessed by who, and where do they access it from, and when? Yeah. So this is where now we bring in the aspect of intranet and extranet, intranet and internet, sorry. And we're talking about intranet is any data that has to be accessed while you're in the office premises, for instance, or in the office network. Yeah. So you can use a VPN to access this because you're using the office network. Then we have the internet, and this data can be accessed by anyone from anywhere. Yeah. So that becomes a data classification control. So all the sensitive information that is for the company's personnel eyes only and don't need to be accessed by anyone else can be given an intranet policy or data classification policy. Then any information that we need the public to access, so they can access it from anywhere, be it home, be it around the other side of the globe. Then we classify that as an internet data classification that can be accessed in that manner. Yeah. Then for the administrative detective controls, we're actually looking at things such as reviewing of access rights. Yeah. Where we ensure that we review what access rights someone has. Yeah. So so that we don't have someone from IT accessing information about finance, for instance. Yeah. So the access is actually limited to what they can access in IT only. For the finance people, the access is limited to finance only. For marketing people, their access is limited to marketing only and not cutting across the different departments. Then there is audit logs and authorized changes, audit logs and unauthorized changes. So this is where we do what we call log monitoring. So log monitoring is monitoring every detail that happens on a system or a machine. Yeah. So if someone logs in with a wrong password, then that becomes a log and it's saved. Yeah. If someone logs in from outside the company, then that becomes a log, then it's keyed into the system. If someone accessed a file that they were not supposed to access at midnight, then it also keys that in. So at the end of the day, once you do log monitoring and you come and audit now these logs, yeah, you can actually find out, these are some of the things that people are trying to check. Yeah. So this one was trying to check this thing at this time. So you use that information now to go and bulk up the security feature for whatever they were trying to access. So that is what we call log monitoring and unauthorized changes. Yeah. Then it also helps in a case where someone changed something, yeah, that they were not supposed to change, yeah, or they changed it, they were supposed to change it, but they changed it without permission, yeah. Then you can always revert back to whatever changes were made, because you can see what was there before and ideally what has been changed into at the moment. Then we have corrective physical controls. So corrective physical controls are corrective administrative controls include implementation of a business continuity plan. Remember, we're actually saying security helps with the overall business continuity and data recovery aspects. Yeah. So creating a good business continuity plan, data recovery and continuity plan will ensure that in case you're hacked, you can always continue with the business as you work to correct whatever had been tampered with. Yeah. Then have an incident response plan. Basically, an incident response plan is a foresight of what might happen. So remember, we were saying you can never be 100% secure online, yeah, and you will be hacked at one point in time, yeah. So an incident response plan basically says this might happen. So from the risk matrix, you actually see this is what is happening right now in the technological space or in the cybersecurity space. Different organizations are being hacked, for instance, using ransomware. Yeah. So you actually learn what are the patterns to which led to these organizations be hacked by, for instance, the ransomware. Then from there, you actually say, we can also be hacked using ransomware. Yeah. But if and when this attack comes to our organization, then this is what we will do. We will get these people will use these tools will actually use these policies, and these policies at the end of the day will ensure that we have a business continuity plan at the end of the day. So that becomes our response plan. Yeah, you actually create it before you are attacked, so that when you are attacked, you use that plan to ensure that you correct the issue that caused you to be in such a position in the first place. So that becomes an administrative corrective control. Yeah, I'm hoping that makes sense, guys. If not, drop a question on the chat and we shall see. From there, we actually have information security. So remember, when we started, we actually said there are two aspects to the security that we shall be discussing. One is information security, and one is cyber security. So in this case, we are saying information security, sometimes referred to as InfoSec. Most people actually put it that way. Covers the tools and processes that organizations use to protect specifically the information, yeah, or the data. Information security does not focus on what tools are you using to transfer this information from point A to point B. What tools are you using to ideally store this information? Yeah, their only purpose is to ensure that this information is ideally safe for consumption, yeah, by any person who wants to consume it. So it is a wider term for safeguarding of information assets in an organization. So information security is a broad field that covers many areas, yeah, such as physical security, endpoint security, data security, and network security. So remember, all these have information passing through them, be it in physical security on CCTVs, surveillance cameras, keycards, yeah, be it on endpoints. Endpoints, in this case, we are talking about maybe the servers, be it your laptop, be it your phone. That is an endpoint, yeah, and it has data. On data encryption, basically as your data moves from point A to point B, is it encrypted or is it put in such a way that if someone intercepts it, they cannot read your information? Yeah, so that is what we say as data encryption. Then network security. Ideally, networks are the medium with which information moves from point A to point B in ICT or IT infrastructure. Yeah, so that information also needs to be safeguarded under information security. Cyber security versus information security. I think this we have discussed. The main difference is just that cybersecurity covers on the digital systems and technologies and assets. Yeah, so tries to look at what are the upcoming technologies, what are the assets, and defense them. Yeah, so it basically provides a defense mechanism for the threats. Sorry, that's supposed to be threats that might affect them. Then information security, on the other hand, includes protecting of the digital and non-digital forms of storage information, and also transmission of that information from one point to the other. Yeah. So it also includes printed files and mostly focuses on information standards under ISMS. Yeah. Information security management standards. Yeah. So whereas cybersecurity focuses on digital systems mostly, information security focuses on the information, be it in a digital form or an undigital form. So information security deals with also the physical files that you have in your organization. How is that information ideally stored, yeah, in your place, and is it secure or is it not? Yeah, and most of the times it actually follows ISO 27001, that is ISMS. Yeah. Then we have integration technologies and their impact. So I think in day 3, we're gonna appreciate the aspect of integration of technology. So we have different technologies that are actually coming up, yeah, and they are making our work way easier and reducing the cost with which we are actually using to do the things that we're doing right now. Yeah. So integration basically enables applications and systems that were built separately to work together and results in new capabilities and efficiencies that cut costs and uncover new insights. Yeah. So for instance, we had what we call we ideally have for instance Zoom, which is a technology that has actually come up. Yeah. But Zoom cannot work, yeah, without internet. Yeah. And internet is another technology that we are using. So combining Zoom and internet, yeah, and the applications in our phones, be it laptops, yeah, enables us or enables these applications and systems to work better. So the same way in security, you might end up combining different technologies and tools into one so that they all end up giving you the best products that you might ideally want. Yeah. So when we talk about it, we're going to talk about what we call security operation centers. Yeah. And security operation centers in this case have a conglomeration of different tools from different people, yeah, that are put together and they work seamlessly. So in this case, if one wants to have a security operation center, instead of you going and buying all these things individually, you can only go and buy security operation center as a service. Yeah, and it combines for you or integrates for you all these technologies, and it becomes way cheaper than acquiring the individual tools. It gives you more visibility and increases the efficiency and effectiveness of these different technologies that you're using ideally. Yeah. Then from there we're talking about some of the communication technologies that will actually help us understand cybersecurity better. Include firewalls. So a firewall is basically a network security device that monitors, filters, and filters incoming and outgoing network traffic based on the organization's established security policies. Yeah. Then we have routers. Routers are basically the connection points for our network. Yeah. So you're getting network from your ISP, be it Jamii Telcom or Safaricom. That network needs a place where it's stored for you to actually use from it. So that is what we actually call a router. Then a switch is just a device that helps you distribute it, the network, to different places in case you need. So routers can actually act as switches at some point, but you might also need a switch to give you simultaneous connection to the different devices that you want. Yeah. So we shall also talk about a bit of emerging technology, just to introduce them. We have artificial intelligence and machine learning. Right now we have ChatGPT that has taken over the industry and the technological world. Yeah, where you used to do research for different things and you take a week or 2 weeks to actually do it. ChatGPT can automate it for you in a matter of seconds. Yeah, in a minute, you have the whole thing, compile it, and you can read it from different sources also. Yeah, where we used to write different reports. So you wanted to write a report and you're taking a report writing for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So Nick Writer, an AI right now, can actually help you do it in a matter of seconds. Yeah, in a minute, you have a whole report. You just need to pick it and correct a few 1, 2 things and add whatever maybe it has not done for you. Then we have blockchain and Web3 technology. So we shall also understand this when we go into the emerging technologies in depth. We have intelligent automation and robotic process automation, basically what we use in industries and also in our vehicles, the self-driving vehicles that we have at the moment. We have Internet of Things, yeah, which we call Internet of Everything. That is basically the revolutionizing of the physical gadgets that we have, yeah, be it in our homes, be it in our offices that are actually embedded in the network. Then we have quantum computing also that we shall discuss about. Yeah. Here I just added a meme to wrap up what we've ideally said. When I was actually telling you that security is not a one-man show, but a full and everyone aspect in the company. Yeah, you can actually appreciate this. And also when we say your security is as strong as your weakest link, and human beings are the weakest link in any security chain. So this one actually shows you that you have a company firewall, you have an antivirus, you have an intrusion detection system, you have education for people, you have policies, yeah, as the first line of defense, yeah. Then you have IT or security staff who actually are back there and they are supporting all these technologies that you have created, yeah. But a ransomware just hits you as a company because Dave in finance thought it was a free downloadable 1,000 cash token, yeah. It was a promo for him, yeah. And they felt like they can click on it and everything goes into shambles because of Dave, yeah. So that is a very good one to actually give you the perspective of what we have been talking about today. And with that, I think we can call it a day. I'll just take a few minutes. I know we are a minute past time, but I'll just take like 5 or 10 minutes to go through the questions that are there on the chart. Then we can see what's good. So allow me to read the question and maybe answer one or two. So we have Bernard Matt, who actually asks, zero-day attack, explain more. So Bernard, a zero-day attack ideally is an attack that has not been seen before. It's a new attack, yeah. So each and every day with the systems or with technologies actually coming up, they actually come up with vulnerabilities that people might exploit that companies do not know of, yeah. So if an attack is found that has never been found before, basically it's a new attack on any system anywhere, then that's what we ideally call a zero-day attack. I'm hoping that makes sense. Yeah. Yes. Are we filling the attendance sheet? I think I'll leave that to Simon when I finish. Is there an attendance registration for this session? Simon will answer that for us. Yeah, then George, let me just finish, then I leave it to you, Simon.
All right.
So that you finish that and couple up with the closing aspects. Then George actually asks something on phishing emails. I noticed that we can be so bothersome and itching to open such emails, but at the moment you open them, you keep on seeing them replicating more and more. Which one will be so ideal, to ignore them or delete them? My suggestion personally will be to delete, because just as you say, it's bothersome and itchy, and some of us don't like seeing you have 5 emails. Yeah. So if you ignore them today, tomorrow you will come and click them because they are still in your inbox. Yeah. So if you detect it can be a phishing email, the easiest way is to delete it in totality. And if you have a security team, for instance, you can forward it to them and tell them you think this is a phishing email, so that they can ideally track the IP address of that sender, and at the end of the day block it, so that the person will not send you an email tomorrow, or send someone else a phishing email in your organization because you're good and maybe they are not. Yeah. So that would be my take on that. Is there any other question? Peter Wasike asks, if I employ SD1, do I need a firewall ideally? So depending on what you're ideally safeguarding, yeah, will be one. But if you have SD1, I don't see the essence of you having a firewall. But you can have both, just for security purposes. So on this, the essence as to why you can say, I say you can have both, is what we call in-depth security. We're actually going to talk about it, I think, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Basically having an onion-like security, yeah, where you not only have one security feature, but you have a security feature, then another one on top of it, then another one on top of it, so that at the end of the day, the security features will deter the attacker more whenever they want to attack you. Remember, for an attacker, time is of essence. Yeah, I need to be in your systems quickly, get what I need, and leave. So the more I keep on dealing with a firewall, then an SD-WAN, then an IDR, yeah, it increases my chances of being caught. So if I get a system where it has onion security or in-depth security, it tends to deter me or deter attackers from ideally trying to attack the system. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense, Peter. Then from there, Esther actually asked, explain more about 3D animations. So ideally 3D animations is, how can I put it? It just increases the resolution of, be it a movie, be it a video that you're using, yeah? So when we say 3D, Esther, it's just the resolution that is improved so that you can see the features even more, yeah? So I don't know if you've, the best example I can use for this, Esther, is if you've ever taken a photo by yourself and you've gone to a photo studio, yeah, where you're being taken professional photos, yeah. So if you look at the two different photos, the photo taken from a photo studio might be clearer for you. You might see, even if you have maybe different structures, like maybe pimples on your face and everything, they actually come out more elusively. Yeah. So that is ideally what we call 3D animations, just making them more seen, yeah, on it. But I can do a video for you, I think, tomorrow, so that you basically understand what 3D animations is. Is there any difference between mobile banking and web banking? Yes, there is, Daudi. Mobile banking is basically using your mobile, yeah? Using an application on your mobile, that becomes mobile banking. Web banking is basically using a web application, yeah? So the difference, the banking method is the same. The only difference is if you're using a mobile, because there are mobile attacks that will lead to you being hacked through mobile banking. And there are attacks that will be propagated against a website, yeah, which is ideally web banking, yeah. So Bon Otieno, any information about the current WhatsApp hacks? I am also waiting to hear. The best people to actually give that information will be WhatsApp itself. So there is a WhatsApp community. But I know there is a bug, yeah, on WhatsApp that ideally, when you click on it, when you click on a WhatsApp, let's say group, yeah, where that file was actually sent, if you try to open it, it crashes your WhatsApp, yeah, so that you cannot access the services. So I cannot sufficiently say about that because I think it's around 3 or 4 days old now. Let's wait to see what the WhatsApp community will actually say about that. They're in a better position to do it. Hope that makes sense, Bon. Vitalis Odinga, you're asking, kindly explain the honeypot again. So basically, a honeypot, Vitalis, is a low-hanging fruit that will attract attackers to it and make them forget about the legitimate system or service that you're using. For example, you have a website, yeah? You create a clone of your website, the same thing as your website, yeah? But you reduce the security features, yeah? So that maybe when an attacker is looking for something to attack, they actually get the legitimate website that has full security features, and your cloned website, which is the honeypot, that has reduced security features. So by default, they'd want to go to that one which does not have a lot of work, which is your honeypot, yeah? Then in this case, your honeypot collects information on what this attacker was doing, yeah? Because it's the same replica of your website, yeah? Then from there, you, who is the administrator of that honeypot or that less secure website, yeah, you go just see what was this person looking for in the system. Then using that information, you now go and increase the security feature. You now safeguard whatever this person was trying to do in your honeypot now on your legitimate system, yeah? I hope that makes sense, Vitalis. Yeah. So Peter, otherwise I came late, but grateful for the contact. Thank you, Peter. Eda, will we at some point have practical illustrations? Yes, we will have. In terms of videos, we will have, Eda. So today was just an introduction. I think from tomorrow it starts becoming more interesting and you can resonate with it even more. What steps do you take to identify and mitigate potential cyber threats and attack in real time? Jennifer, what steps do you take to identify and mitigate potential cyber threats? Ideally, in real time, I'd advise having what we call intrusion detection systems, yeah, because they actually work in real time to tell you what is ideally happening if it's in your network. Then you can, after that, implement what we call intrusion prevention systems. So a very good intrusion detection system would be SNOT. Yeah, I will, when we talk about this tomorrow, I'll actually show you a good example of it and how you can use it. Then for the intrusion prevention system, now those that mitigate, you can use intrusion prevention systems such as firewalls, antiviruses that run in real time, yeah, on your systems to actually identify and mitigate, yeah. Then John Kariuki, please explain on IDS as a technical detective control. So an IDS, John, we said is an intrusion detection system, yeah? So when we talk about it in terms of technical control, is you're actually using a technology, for instance, SNOT, yeah, in this case, to ideally detect an attack before it actually happens. So it is detective because it detects before it happens. That's why it is an intrusion detection system. Then it's a technical control because it actually uses a certain technology. That's why we're saying it's a detective technical control. Yeah, I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm John Karik. Please talk about cookies. Can they also be an easy target for hackers? Also briefly explain data classification again. Wanjiru. So cookies. So ideally cookies are aspects in websites that will help you access the website easily again if you want to access it. So yes, they can be an easy target for hackers, but in this case, the hackers will be targeting the cookies if the website that the cookies are running on is actually not secure. Yeah. So tomorrow we shall be discussing about how to secure your websites. Yeah. Whether your website has HTTP or HTTPS. Yeah. So HTTPS means the website has security features. So any cookies that are used on that website will ideally be secure and hard for hackers to ideally target. Yeah. But if the website is not S, it does not have that padlock and has an S on it, then it means it's not secure, and the cookies on that website are ideally not secure also. So a man-in-the-middle attack can actually be done, and that information is ideally accessed. Yeah. So that will be the aspect of the cookies. It relates to the website in which these cookies are running on. Yeah. Then data classification. So data classification is basically an administrative preventive control, whereby we are classifying data according to the impact, that is the risk that if this data is actually leaked, what is the impact to the organization? The confidentiality aspect, yeah. Is this data supposed to be shared with everyone, or is the data supposed to be for a few people's eyes only? Yeah. So if you're doing data classification for people maybe who are supposed to access this information while at work only, then that's where I was saying you can do what we call an intranet. An intranet means you will only access that information when you are in the internet of that organization. Yeah. If you're in the organization, but you're not using maybe their network, you're using maybe your own hotspot, then you cannot access that information. And if you're out, then you can also not access that information. Then there is data that is required for public consumption. Yeah, anyone can actually read it from anywhere and they can consume it. Yeah, then you can actually classify that data and put it under the internet. Yeah, where it's free for anyone and everyone to ideally read and understand and interact with it. Yeah, so that is what data classification means. Just putting the data into different classes, yeah, that have different security aspects to them, depending on who is accessing what at what time and where. I hope that makes sense, Wanjiru. Most antiviruses, Kaspersky, for example, and firewall software tend to greatly slow down the network. Any solution? Depending, I think for me, the solution, if it slows down your network, is try find another one that works for you. Yeah. So you don't need to ideally stick with something, even if it works and it slows down your network, for instance. Yeah. So you can always find a better aspect. For instance, you can try Trend Micro. I actually know that one is good. For the firewall, you can try Sophos. Sophos is actually a good one. And if you can also manage to actually use a multi-cloud firewall, will actually be better when it comes to the network. That is, if you can afford it, or the company you're using can afford it actually, to do a multi-cloud firewall, whereby the traffic will not be passing only on one firewall, but it's distributed to different firewalls, so that it reduces the load on one firewall, maybe if that's what you're using. Yeah. So Bon, I hope that makes sense. Explain the issues of SSL end-to-end encryption and dark fiber. I'd like to skip this a bit, Arnold, because tomorrow when we are talking about attacks on the website, we'll actually be talking about SSL certificates, yeah, and basically how they are encrypted by the CA certificate authority, yeah. Then I think that's where you'll appreciate this, yeah. So Vivian, thank you for the eloquent and practical examples you have disseminated to us. Keep up the good work. Thank you also for being a good team. Apologies for joining in late because of some technical issues. Tomorrow I'll try be on time, and we'll have more interactive sessions tomorrow. So thank you, and I think I can now hand it over to Simon to actually close it for us. Thank you so much, guys. Let's meet tomorrow.
All right, thank you, David. That was a fantastic session on our first day. And I believe the entire team that has been here throughout the session has been able to reap very important concepts that they're going to apply in their various areas of expertise. And as we continue to attend the sessions throughout the week, I hope you are going to use this opportunity to expand our professional horizons and make an impact in our areas of expertise. So thank you so much, David. Myself, for those who joined when the session was going on, don't worry, I think I've shared a link, a YouTube link on the chat section. You can click on it and listen to the sessions from the beginning at your own convenient time. I do not want to waste much time at this point. I know most of us want to switch gears to other personal schedules for the afternoon. And so I will not want to take much of your time. If there's any other question, I think you can still reach out to us. But we promise that this training going forward throughout the week is going to be useful and impactful. So thank you for your patience and trusting in ICT Authority and the team to take you through this session. And I believe that we will keep on learning and developing our skills and keeping up with where the world is going. So thank you so much. Rosabella Onindo, your hand is up. I don't know if you have a question. You can unmute and share with us. Otherwise, I think we are at liberty to exit the session.